Hi, my name is Emily Weisberg, and this is my final presentation for Police Administration and Organization. In the first topic, we were told to differentiate between the generalist and specialist concepts of law enforcement activities. First of all, it's important to know the difference between the two. In general, a specialist are more so professionals that are able to focus their efforts and skills into one specific discipline so that they have the time and experience and the tools to work with situations accordingly. Generalists, on the other hand, are professionals who put their time and efforts into a broad variety of disciplines. In terms of law enforcement, there are some more specific advantages and disadvantages to using these types. Um, a specialist in law enforcement is going to work in one or two specific tasks, unlike generalists who can perform all types of tasks throughout the day. Many of the smaller departments will use generalists to do all the tasks that are available to them. So, for example, the same officer who's going to be responding to crimes, where they'll also collect and preserve evidence, and they'll also be patrolling neighborhoods and attending neighborhood meetings and dealing with juveniles. So they all kind of have a lot of things they have to do throughout the day. This is great for community policing because this way, when there's one officer going out there and doing everything, he can have a better relationship with the people that he's constantly in contact with. On the other hand, one downfall of this is that potentially having all these activities to do at once, all these jobs to take care of, can lead to a lot more stress for an officer's life and a lot less job satisfaction due to feeling inadequate. So, as for specialists, on the other hand, there's a whole other list of advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages is that these people are able to specialize in more prestigious assignments, such as K-9 units or SWAT teams, and they are often praised for this by the public and other officers. They're also eligible for more flexible hours, better pay, and better benefits, and they can focus more of their time and efforts into one certain thing so they can be better at that. So, in reference to back to the generalists, where one person will do all different things. There'll be, for specialists, there'll be one officer who can patrol the neighborhood. There'll be a second officer who will deal with juveniles, and a third who will go to crime scenes. So they all can be very good at specific things. With that being said, some of the downfalls of being a specialist may be that this may lead to status consciousness, which can create a very unwanted atmosphere within departments, such as jealousy, and there can be too much competitiveness that may arise, and they might lose sight of the department's overall goals. The next topic I'm going to talk about are different types of patrolling techniques that officers use. The first one that I listed in my paper was preventive patrol. This is basically the practice of canvassing neighborhoods in an effort to discourage people from committing crimes. Foot patrol is a very good example of this. The deterrence theory is a big underlying reason for this practice, but an issue with preventive patrol is that cops are constantly responding to routine incidents and calls, so there's sometimes no time to patrol neighborhoods and prevent crime. This leads into response role. Routine incidents response is the most common activity of patrol officers. Response time is directly related to citizen satisfaction of patrol officers. Seeing as a lot of situations can be life or death, then it's pretty important that officers can make it to the scene in a timely manner. A lot of people are also familiarized with traffic enforcement function over pretty much every other line of police work, mostly because people are on the receiving line of that. Aside from dangers of pursuits, an issue with traffic patrol that we see every day is racial profiling. Directed patrol is a form of patrol that involves concentrating the police presence in areas where certain crimes are a significant problem. This is similar to preventive patrol, but a lot more time, money, and efforts will go into focusing into one certain person so that they can be arrested before they commit a crime. Everyone kind of has that neighborhood around them where it seems to be always crime ridden, and there can be cops sitting there at every street corner and just waiting for something to happen. This is them kind of patrolling the neighborhood so that they can stop things before they get way too out of hand, especially if they know there's a repeat offender living in the area. The next topic I'm going to be talking about is what elements are included in an effective written police report. First of all, every officer may write the report a little differently, but there are in fact a few key elements that should definitely be taken care of in every report. The length of the preliminary report is very important because although some officers only include some very basic details, they don't fill in some boxes or just put no answers or anything in them. They should in fact be filled out to their complete ability to. This information, like phone numbers, for instance, contact phone numbers, if a victim says they don't have a phone, it's very important to find some other means of communication because another key element is also keeping up with victims and interviews and everything, so that's very important. This should be a pretty obvious one, but having all the correct details and information involving times and dates written down. One of the reasons this is most important is because suspects or victims in court who have alibis will be using information, and if an officer writes it down wrong, then it can totally destroy their alibi. So we want to make sure that that is all correct. Along with appropriate timekeeping, getting descriptive information about potential suspects from the victim is very valuable as well. This can become difficult if there has been a very traumatic experience, but it's still necessary to try and get as many answers from them as you can get so that you can have leads to whoever may have committed the crime. And the next very important element of an effective written report is using the Uniform Crime Reporting Handbook. An officer has to know how to classify and report crimes in the right format, and so when they do this, the crime will get the attention that it deserves. And the very last one that I have written about is at the end of the report, which is the report narrative. It's important that this is basically sweet and short, but it needs to be very concise as well. It doesn't need to include a lot of useless information, but it needs to be able to be read by whoever has to handle it later on. Somebody that will be reading the report who may have not been there at the time will have to feel like they are witnessing it, and they need every little bit of detail that they can get to understand what happened and what needs to be done. The next topic I want to talk about is the importance of establishing good rapport with citizens. Every day there are officers out there who are doing their jobs correctly, who are doing a good job at it, and are helping people everywhere. And when an officer or a department does one bad thing, then the public will go crazy. You'll see it all over media, and they will get a bad reputation, and it can make the entire department look bad because one person is out there doing something wrong. Police officers are held to very high standards, and they're expected to be honest, they're expected to be professional and full of integrity. So what I realized is that the process of keeping bad cops out of the community and making everyone else look bad is to start within the department. We see a lot, especially recently, that there are officers out there who will commit crimes, who will do things that are not appropriate, misconduct, excessive use of force, and because a lot of departments are very tight-knit and they all have each other's backs, which is good on most occasions, but in this case they will excuse their officers' behavior and will not get them in trouble or will have very light punishment, and this kind of separates the law enforcement agencies from their communities because now there are two sides. Being able to punish them correctly will show their communities that they do care on how they were treated and not more about their own people within their departments. So it's very important that the community can see that side. The reason that the relationship between the two, police and their communities and citizens, is so important, one of the reasons is because a lot of the crime that can be committed within the community is not always seen, so those who are patrolling neighborhoods are not always going to know what's going on behind closed doors. So if there's a good relationship between cops and the people living in the area, then there's a bigger chance that not only will crime be decreasing, but also if there is crimes being committed, then some people living there will have the decency to tell somebody about it so that it can be stopped. The next topic I'm going to discuss is about the proper procedures for responding to media inquiries. Before I go over the procedures, I want to talk about the importance of having a good working relationship between officers and the media. They both are here to serve the public, yet somehow they both end up on different sides of the fence. Police officers are secretive by nature, considering confidentiality is a big part of their job. And on the other end, reporters are striving to uncover information. So you can kind of see where the two may butt heads a little bit in this process. Um, Interacting with media should pretty much be expected, though, by the police departments, especially when a crisis occurs. So they need to know how to properly answer the questions that they know they're going to end up being asked. So some of the guidelines that you should follow is, first of all, finding common ground, because there needs to be a good working relationship between the two. If the media knows that they can go to the departments to get answers from them, that will deter them from going to non-credible sources instead, where God knows what kind of information they're going to get from those people. If there's a good working relationship, the chances are that the media is not ever going to write a very negative story regarding the agency. Those chances will be much more slim. Considering all that the media is going to be talking about relays back to the public at all times, you can kind of see where being on good terms with each other will be very important. And we already know why citizen police trust and relationships are very important, as we have talked about before. The next guideline that should be followed is when answering the questions, any of the information given should not interfere with any operations. They should not infringe on individual rights, and definitely should not violate any laws. And the media should expect appropriate, true, and professional answers, even if they are very hard questions that they're giving them. Basically, at the end of the day, agencies have to stop viewing reporters as cop haters, and reporters have to stop seeing all cops as secretive liars, because that is not really the case. And it's possible to have a positive relationship that can help both ends out. It doesn't have to be complicated. They both have a lot to offer each other and can help each other succeed and benefit from keeping a healthy relationship. The next topic is on the value of making presentations to citizen groups. To make this short, basically, presentations to citizen groups means a civilian police academy, and this does not mean civilians that will become policemen or community policemen or anything like that. This is more so people who have extreme or mild misconceptions of how police officers work in their day-to-day lives. They can come here and they can take free classes and take or watch demonstrations or anything else they need, especially one-on-one, asking any kind of questions they need to ask with officers who are working, so that they can truly understand what goes on in the police world. There are all types of different things they can be involved in. There's even firearm practicing. There are ride-alongs, which is very, very popular in a lot of police departments. So you can really get that personal feel and that one-on-one interaction, so that you can go with an officer throughout his day and see what all he has to deal with. A lot of people will think that officers are not doing their job right, or that there are unnecessary amounts of force that are put on a person. So if they come here, there's a possibility they will see that, or they will learn about how a lot of rules and regulations that apply to a lot of situations, they make sense, and it will mean that a lot of the things that they thought previously were done wrong were actually done the right way. This will mean that there are going to be a lot more well-informed citizens out there. The people who leave the academy can also go out and tell other people all about this and have them be well-informed as well. And this is going to definitely increase that relationship between police and the community and the citizens living there. And as we've already discussed multiple times in this paper alone, how important that relationship is, this is a good resource to go to if anyone ever needs to know anything more about police and what they do throughout their days. So last but not least is the topic on effective oral communication techniques. We as human beings will communicate every day, all the time, whether we mean to or not, and communicating effectively for police officers is extremely important, as we have learned. This is a much bigger deal for them. Or communication with the public can really make or break the way an agency looks. Besides having a bad reputation, using effective communication techniques can prevent any unnecessary physical interaction or violence. So, if an officer knows how to react to a situation correctly by using communication first and seeing if they can handle the situation that way, that will mean there will be a decreased amount of violent interactions with officers, which will be a lot better off for both parties in that sense. One of the techniques that officers should learn to master is how to communicate with all different types of people and situations. For example, people who are under the influence, people who are mentally ill, they must make their intentions very known, to no matter how difficult it may be to translate it to somebody. Being able to gain cooperation from somebody and knowing how to handle any situations that involve searching, restraining, and etc. is a very critical skill to have. A good thing to remember at the end of the day is that both officers and everyone else have have a few things in common. For example, we all feel the need to be respected. We like to be asked and not told what to do. Being told why something is happening and being given options instead of just being threatened are desired, as well as being given a second chance.